You are shaking someone's hand right now, or you have today, or you will tomorrow. A firm grip, skin against skin, the pressure of another person's palm meeting yours. It is the most ordinary human gesture there is. It says, I am here, you are here, we are real to each other. Every culture on earth has some version of it. We reach out and make contact, we touch, except you don't. You have never touched anything, not once, not a single time in your entire life. Not your mother's face when you were an infant, not the ground beneath your feet right now, not the chair you are sitting in, not the screen you are watching this on. The sensation of contact, that solid, reliable, physical feeling of one thing meeting another, is not what you think it is. And when you understand what is actually happening in the space between your fingertips and the world, you will never experience the word touch the same way again. Let me tell you something. This is not philosophy. This is not poetry. This is the electromagnetic force, one of the four fundamental forces of nature, doing something so strange and so intimate that it reaches all the way up from the quantum scale into the most human moments of your life. A handshake, a mother holding a newborn, two people in a dark room reaching for each other. None of it is contact. All of it is something more interesting than contact. And I want to show you exactly what it is. Stay with me. Here is the belief everyone carries. The physical world is made of solid stuff. When two pieces of solid stuff meet, they touch. Simple as that. Your foot touches the floor. Your fingers touch the keyboard. The cup touches the table. Touch is the most fundamental, the most certain, the most unarguable form of physical knowledge. Descartes doubted everything: sight, sound, memory, reason. But even he did not doubt that when he pressed his finger against a wall, something real was happening. Touch is bedrock. Touch is proof. Touch is how we know the world is there. I want you to hold that belief firmly. Feel how reasonable it is. Feel how every single piece of sensory evidence you have ever gathered confirms it. And now let me show you the physics underneath it. Your body is made of atoms. Everything you might touch is also made of atoms. And atoms, as I have told you before in a different context, are almost entirely empty space. A nucleus surrounded by electrons with a vast void between them. But that is not the part I want to focus on right now. What I want to focus on is the electron cloud, the electrons that occupy the outermost shell of every atom in your fingertip, and the electrons that occupy the outermost shell of every atom in whatever you are about to touch. Electrons carry a negative charge. Every electron in the universe carries the same negative charge. And the electromagnetic force has a rule that is absolute and has no exceptions. Like charges repel. Positive attracts negative, but negative repels negative. Always, without exception, at every scale from the cosmic to the subatomic. So what happens when your fingertip approaches a surface? The electron clouds of your fingertip atoms and the electron clouds of the surface atoms get close to each other. And before they can get any closer, the repulsion begins. Electromagnetic repulsion. Invisible, instantaneous, operating at the speed of the force itself, pushes back against the approach. Your fingertip decelerates. It stops. Your brain receives a pressure signal. You experience touch. But your electrons and the surface's electrons never met. The atoms never made contact. Nothing physical crossed the gap. Do you see what happens? There is always a gap, an unimaginably small gap, smaller than any instrument we have can directly observe, but a real gap nonetheless, a distance that is never closed. You reach out to touch the world and the world pushes back before you arrive, and what you feel as solidity is not solidity at all. It is resistance. It is force at a distance. It is the universe saying, in the language of electromagnetism, this far and no further. If you want to understand how the universe actually works, not just how it looks, but how it works, hit that subscribe button. Let's find things out together. Now let me give you the analogy that makes this feel real, because abstract descriptions of electron clouds are easy to nod at and forget. Imagine two powerful magnets. You hold one in each hand, same pole facing same pole. You push them toward each other. As they get close, you feel the resistance build, a pressure, an invisible wall between them. You can feel that wall as clearly as you can feel any solid object. If you closed your eyes, you might swear there was something physical between the magnets, some invisible substance pushing back against your hands. But there is nothing there. There is only field, only force, only the invisible structure of electromagnetism bending space between the two magnets and transmitting that bend to your fingers. Your hand touching a table is exactly that, scaled up from the quantum level to the everyday world, but the same phenomenon, the same invisible force, the same gap that never closes. The table feels solid because the electromagnetic repulsion is so steep, so sharp at close range, that your nervous system has no way to distinguish it from actual contact. Evolution never needed you to know the difference. Knowing the difference does not help you survive. So your brain takes the pressure signal and labels it solid, touched, real. But the label is a simplification, a useful fiction that your nervous system invented and your culture reinforced, and your entire model of reality is built on. Let me take this one step further, because there is something here that most explanations of this fact leave out. The electrons are not just sitting still in their clouds, passively waiting to repel each other. They are behaving quantum mechanically, which means, among other things, that they do not have precise locations. They exist as probability distributions, clouds of likelihood smeared through space, simultaneously in no particular place and in all their possible places at once, until something forces them to be somewhere specific. When the electron clouds of your fingertip and the surface approach each other, what is actually happening is that two quantum probability distributions are overlapping and interacting. The repulsion comes from something called the Pauli exclusion principle, which says that no two electrons can occupy the same quantum state in the same place at the same time. It is not just that they repel because of charge, it is that the mathematics of quantum mechanics forbids them from overlapping, from sharing the same state, from being in the same place in the same way simultaneously. The solidity of matter is, at its deepest level, a consequence of the fact that electrons are antisocial in a very specific mathematical sense. Matter cannot pass through matter because quantum mechanics forbids two fermions, two particles of the same type, from occupying the same quantum state. The floor holds you up not because it is hard, but because its electrons refuse, on quantum mechanical grounds, to share their state with yours. This is the part that keeps me up at night. Now I want to take this deeper, into the implication that nobody talks about when they explain the touching problem. If you have never touched anything, then every experience of physical contact in your life has been an experience of force mediated by fields. The warmth of another person's hand is real. That is infrared radiation, genuine photons crossing the gap. The pressure is real. That is genuine electromagnetic force being transmitted through your nervous system. The experience is real, but it is mediated. It is always mediated. There is no moment of raw, unmediated physical contact anywhere in nature. There is no place in the universe where two things simply and directly meet. Everything physical that has ever happened, every collision, every embrace, every impact, every handshake, every moment of what we call touch, has happened across a gap, has happened through intermediary forces, has happened in the space between things, not at the meeting of things. Let's be honest about what this means. The universe is not a collection of solid objects that bump into each other. It is a web of fields, and what we call matter is what those fields look like when they are locally concentrated and densely interactive. Objects do not touch. Fields overlap. Influences propagate. Forces transmit across distances that never go to zero. And here is where the implication gets genuinely uncomfortable. You have never touched another human being. Every person you have ever held, embraced, pressed your forehead against in grief or relief or love, the atoms of your body and the atoms of theirs never made contact. You were always separated by the electromagnetic force field, always kept apart by the mathematics of quantum exclusion, always on opposite sides of a gap too small to see and too fundamental to cross. I am not going to soften that. Sit with it. Now let me bring it back to your body, to something you can notice in the next few minutes when you put your feet on the floor. You are not resting on the floor, you are hovering above it. The soles of your feet are suspended by electromagnetic repulsion, a fraction of an atomic diameter above the surface. Gravity is pulling you down. Electromagnetism is pushing up. And the point at which those two forces balance, that precise, dynamic, constantly renegotiated equilibrium between gravity pulling you into the earth and electron clouds refusing to let you in, that is what you experience as standing, as solid ground, as the reliable fact of the floor. You are floating. You have always been floating. The ground is not holding you up by being there. It is holding you up by refusing to let you in. Here is the reframe, and I mean this completely. The fact that you have never touched anything could be a source of loneliness. The gap is always there. The barrier is always there. You are always on the physical level, slightly alone inside your electron cloud, unreachable. But look at what the force actually does. It reaches across the gap. It transmits information, pressure, texture, temperature, resistance, across a distance that atoms cannot close. When you hold someone's hand, electromagnetic fields from your body and electromagnetic fields from theirs are interacting, overlapping, communicating across the quantum divide. Your fields and their fields are doing something together that neither could do alone. The gap is not emptiness. The gap is where the interaction happens. The gap is the relationship. You cannot touch the world, but you can move it. You can be moved by it. You can reach across the unclosable distance with the only tools matter has: force, field, influence. And something real passes between you. Something real always passes between you. The most intimate physical act in the universe happens in the space between things, and it always has. If this twisted your brain a little bit, good. That means it's working. I'll see you in the next one.